If you've ever wondered whether you're actually an INFJ, this is the video that settles it. Here's the uncomfortable math. INFJ is the rarest personality type on Earth, 1 to 2% of people, and it's the most claimed type on the internet by an enormous margin. Those two facts cannot both be true. Mistyping happens because the description is flattering, and flattery is very hard to argue with. By the end of this, you'll know the 7 signs you're not actually an INFJ and the 3 traits real INFJs have that almost nobody can fake. Carl Jung, whose work the whole cognitive function system rests on, warned about exactly this. The danger isn't having a type. It's mistaking your persona for the actual structure underneath. And the INFJ persona is extremely attractive, deep, misunderstood, quietly, wise. Who wouldn't want that? So, 7 signs you've claimed the wrong one. Then 3 traits only genuine INFJs have. Let's start with the one that catches almost everybody. Sign 1. The description felt good. That's the tell. If you read a list of INFJ traits and felt validated, warm, a little special, you were probably reading someone else's map. In 1948, psychologist Bertram Forer gave his students what he called a personalized personality profile. Every student got the identical paragraph, most of it lifted from an astrology column. They rated its accuracy at 4.26 out of 5. Flattering statements feel intensely personal, and the more flattering they are, the truer they feel. Now watch a real INFJ read that same description. They don't feel flattered, they feel caught. There's a specific discomfort to it, the sense of being read without permission. Warmth is the wrong reaction. Exposure is the right one. But that's the surface test. The next one goes into the machinery. Sign 2. Your intuition arrives as a feeling, not a verdict. Almost everyone who mistypes here does it because of intuition. They get vibes about people and assume that's introverted intuition. It isn't. Jung described it as something closer to involuntary conclusion, not a mood, a finished answer that arrives whole before the reasoning does. Psychologist Gary Klein found the same thing in fire commanders. He called it recognition prime decision-making. They knew the right call seconds before they could say why. The difference is testable. A vibe says something feels wrong here. Introverted intuition says this person will leave in 4 months and here is how it will happen. One is emotional weather. The other is a prediction with a shape. If yours never has a shape, it's sensitivity. Real, valuable, and belonging to a different type. Now here's where it gets complicated. Because this next one splits 2 types that look identical from the outside. Sign 3. You want to be understood more than you want to understand. This is the INFP line, and it's the most common mistype there is. Both types feel enormously. The difference isn't depth, it's direction. Jung split feeling into 2 orientations. Introverted feeling runs inward. It builds a private value system and checks the world against it, and needs to be known accurately. Extroverted feeling runs outward. It reads the room before it reads itself and adjusts. So ask what actually hurts more. Being misunderstood or watching someone else be uncomfortable and not being able to fix it. INFPs will fight quietly for years to be seen correctly. INFJs often never seriously attempt it because they're busy managing everyone else's temperature. That became the job. And this next one, the people closest to you get completely wrong. Sign 4. You have never actually closed a door. You've let friendships fade. Stopped replying. Everyone does that. The INFJ door slam is something else, and badly named, because it isn't dramatic, it's administrative. One day the person is inside. The next day they're outside, permanently, and there's no appeal. No final argument, no closure conversation. The file is simply closed. It isn't rage. It's what happens when extroverted feeling has spent years absorbing someone at enormous cost, and the INFJ's quiet internal logic finally returns one verdict. This is not survivable. Feeling does the loving. Logic does the ending. And that logic does not negotiate. If you've never once removed someone completely and felt relief instead of grief, that wiring may not be yours. If you're the kind of person who'd rather be typed correctly than typed flatteringly, that tells me something about you. It would mean a lot if you hit subscribe. We break down real psychology here every week, and hit the bell, because Thursday I'm doing INFJ versus INFP, the one difference that settles it. Sign 5. You have always known where you end. The real INFJ problem isn't being misunderstood. It's dissolving. Elaine Aron's research on high sensitivity found that some people don't just notice other people's emotions, they process them through the same machinery they use for their own. For an INFJ already oriented outward, that's dangerous. They can spend months inside another person's inner world and lose the thread back to their own. They adopt opinions, preferences, ways of speaking, and don't notice. The classic INFJ crisis isn't loneliness. It's sitting alone at 31 and genuinely not knowing which of your beliefs are yours. If you've never had to excavate your way back to yourself after a relationship, that's a real strength. It's also not this type, but this. This is the root underneath all of them. Sign 6. You weren't the child who managed the room. Function stacks develop, and they develop under pressure. Ask almost any genuine INFJ about childhood, and you find the same shape. They were the barometer. They could tell from the sound of a car door what kind of evening it was going to be. Developmental psychologists call one version of this parentification a child taking on the emotional regulation of the adults around them. That isn't a sad story. It's an explanation. Extroverted feeling that sharp doesn't develop in safety. It develops in rooms where you had to know. So if you never had to run the emotional temperature of a house, the machinery this type runs on probably never got built. And honestly, good. Which brings us to the last sign, and the most uncomfortable one. Sign 7. You like being rare. Real INFJs almost never lead with it, and that isn't modesty. When you actually are 1 to 2%, rarity isn't a compliment. It's a logistics problem. It means walking into rooms where nobody processes information the way you do. Most INFJs would trade it in a second for one person who simply got it. Jung's warning lands exactly here. A type describes how your mind processes information. It is not an achievement. The moment it becomes a status object, you've swapped the structure for the persona. So here's the honest test. If it turned out 40% of people were INFJ, would you still want it? If the answer is no, you were never describing yourself. You were decorating yourself. Now, 3 traits only real INFJs have. These are much harder to fake because none of them feel good. Trait 1. The conclusion arrives before the evidence, and they cannot defend it. They know something with total certainty and zero admissible proof. Asked to justify it, they produce something that sounds like nothing at all. So they learn to stay quiet and then watch it happen anyway, 6 months later, exactly as they saw it. The tell isn't the accuracy. Plenty of people guess right. The tell is that being right brings no satisfaction, only a tired, familiar dread. Because they've been here before, and nobody listened then either. Trait 2. They can love someone and be completely finished with them at the same time. Most people experience that as a contradiction that has to resolve. INFJs hold both, permanently, without strain. The feeling side keeps the affection entirely intact. They can still tell you exactly what was beautiful about that person. The thinking side has independently concluded it's over and won't reopen it. This is why the door slam confuses everyone watching. It looks cold. From the inside, it's the opposite. The love never went anywhere. It just stopped granting access. Trait 3. They disappear. To rebuild, not to punish. Every INFJ has a vanishing pattern. Weeks of silence with no explanation available. Jung described introverted intuition as needing to go under, to drop out of the performing world so the unconscious can finish its work. That isn't a metaphor. It's a maintenance requirement. It's what happens when a mind that's been running everyone else's emotional processing finally needs to run its own. And here's the part that identifies a real one. They feel guilty about it. Every time. And they do it anyway, because the alternative is worse. So if you recognize yourself in the 7 signs instead of the 3 traits, you didn't lose anything today. You got your actual map back, and the type you really are has depth you've been ignoring because you were busy performing someone else's. And if you recognized yourself in the 3 traits, the dread, the divided heart, the disappearing, then you already knew before this video started. You were just waiting for somebody to say it out loud. Now, there's one question this video didn't answer. If you're not an INFJ, what are you? I made a whole video on that, the personality mistype trap. It's on the screen right now. Go watch it next.